Hey everybody, welcome to Art of the Deals. This time we're going to talk about something of a phenomenon, and it hasn't been discussed much. Phantom noises. This one is, okay, when a demonic is here, they can manifest things you see, smell burning flesh, burning wood, gas, human excrement, dead bodies rotting, and they can, one way you can tell is that it's one for the checklist is there's already notes of a demonic presence there. It might tell you something about the demon itself too, and that the smells will move. They won't stay in the same place. And I'm not talking about move around different spots of the bathroom either. I mean, that can happen normally. I'm talking about going from one room to another as if something is moving around you can't see that smells like that. Sometimes the smells, and I can't say all the time because no one really knows that kind of thing. The smells indicate what type of a demon it is. For example, a demon of death, they tend to bring with them the smell of a demon of violence and death. It was the same, of rotting corpse flesh. Death, the smell of death. You'll actually have demons of, we'll say, immorality smelling like acts of sinful sexuality to some degree, if you know what I'm talking about. And some of these other smells as well, too. Now you'll say, what if I smell the smell of burning wood? That must be a demon of fire. No, it doesn't work that way. All of these demons are all related to people. They're not here, for anything but us. So this is why you say, hey, is the house still demonic when you're away? Like that's the same as saying, does a tree fall and no one's around? And it's there for you, but it's there no matter what. The house is still haunted, when you're gone. You don't live there because it has domain there. Somebody gave it invitation, and it moved there, basically, with his invitation. And don't do this portal stuff. I'll talk about portals another night. That's totally not in line with anything. It's reality. We never considered portals once in any case whatsoever. Never had to deal with it. I got to close a portal at it's like I heard some of these people just go off about that. Like Waverly Hills, this one guy. I got to close these 7 portals there. The end of the world's going to come. Seriously. At Waverly Hills, of all places, the old tuberculosis hospital. So you want to get started on portals. That's when you lose all of us real quick. And I'm talking about everybody in the church because it's a little too new age. We said something about auras the other day. That's a reality. Padre Pio saw them. I think he saw as many as 7 layers. Padre Pio could tell your sins when you went into confession, which helps you to go through the confession, because a lot of people went in there and they didn't talk about their affair, that they might have been currently having. They somehow justify it. But this is some of the gifts of the saints. Unfortunately, the devil has his gifts too, but we're not aware they can see any more than 3, as some Satanists say. But for demons, they might see all of the layers, so they can guess your moods in the least, and appear to read your mind, as I said in my previous videos. You can check that out about can demons read your minds. Okay, so we're going to get off track here. So we're talking about smells. Well, the same thing happens for sounds, disembodied sounds. They call them phantom noises. They can do it directly through your head. They can manifest the sound, where everybody hears it. But those are 2 different things. It's like when they plug a thought suggestion in your mind. Like when you are oppressed and you hear voices typically in the left ear, and they're actually talking and interacting with you, and they're talking amongst themselves too. That's just a weird thing. They actually communicate amongst themselves, really. And so that a person can put their ear up to yours, they won't hear it, because it went like the demons do when they suggest and they project and they push these thoughts into your brain, and you receive it on a subliminal level when it's temptation, but it's more in the conscious part of the mind when it becomes oppression. Eventually it'll hear like it's coming around you instead of in your head. Now, some of these times, these houses with these disembodied voices, which the case that we saw in Conjuring 2, we'll talk about the Conjuring 2 another time. I think that you guys should go over this, because it was a true story. But there was voices in there that spoke out of thin air, and then you could ask it questions and all that stuff. So what's different than that and the Ouija board moving by itself, answering questions when you ask it questions? Not really. I mean, how big of a party trick is that? It's not hard for the demon to do all these kind of things. So phantom noises can be very annoying because what they do, they design to try to tear your psychological down. Sometimes people will be in the other room and you'll hear a spouse call you and you go all the way in there and you go across the house. Yeah? What? Well, you called me. No, I didn't. Yeah, clearly I heard you call me. No, I was right here and about ready. I was dozing off actually, and no, I heard your voice. Just like you do when you yell across the house. Well, it can be strange. It doesn't mean that there's a demon in your house, but if you hear that when other things are going on and you hear more than once, I think everybody has a story of having that happen at least once for whatever reason. You remember Houdini? He was reported that he did this escape from a packaging crate, got dropped in the Hudson River, and it was freezing cold in there. And when he was swimming around, he couldn't find a hole in the ice. And then he heard his mother's voice, who's deceased, and it actually led him to the hole in the ice for whatever reason. Maybe it was his guardian angel or something, some people say. I don't think guardian angels masquerade as people that just strangers, because they're not deceivers in the least at all, and they got enough power where they don't have to work in any deceptive manner. That's another story in itself. Okay, so voices are one thing, and in some possession cases, the voices actually manifest from the mouth instead of the vocal cords being used. That you'll have the voice, and sometimes it sounds like it moved away a little bit, but they're speaking from the person, but not through the person. So that's the difference. So understand that about possessions. A little side note on that kind of thing too. And this can happen too with manifestations come out of the mouth. When they spit it out, it doesn't necessarily come out of the stomach. It can manifest right there before coming up, like the nails. You've heard Gabriel Amorth even talk about they spit up nails, batteries, little AA-sized batteries, that kind of stuff. They didn't swallow these batteries. They're no part of a ritual or anything like that. It's something conjuring up these teleportation ritual kind of things. And instead of it actually being in your stomach and spitting it out, they also discovered that it didn't have the stomach acid content as though it had been swallowed and spit out. That's one of the reasons why this is known. We pay attention to what the Vatican has learned and archived. Okay, so phantom noises, you can get those at lowest levels too. Not even infestations, and it's on the way to something. That the sound is designed to wake you up. You're about ready to drift off, and then you hear this sound. It sounds like a clay pot that just fallen over and cracked. That unique sound that clay has? It's like a glass is different. And then you get up and look around. You're like, wait, I don't have a clay pot. It sounds like an empty clay pot, because you didn't hear the thump. Like if a pot fell off a hook or something and it has that plant in there, that's pretty heavy, but it had to be an empty one, and then fall off onto a hard floor and then break. It'll do glass too. You'll hear glass just fall over and break, and glass has that kind of higher pitch, kind of distinct sound, especially in like an empty glass, another thing. And those are it's like every time you fall asleep you get that, and they'll wake you up in the middle of the night too this way. It gets around the hours that they are ready to play with you, and 2 to 3, 4 a.m. and then you get woken up by that stuff. And sometimes you'll see something. Usually there's something else there. From our studies and cases and experience, when something tries to wake you up, don't wait to see it and witness it. Immediately go through your room and bless it with holy water, say some prayers, binding, etc. Bless yourself, and then go back to sleep. You might also prevent the phantom noises from going on all night to wake you up. Try to make you miss work, oversleep. So many things are all designed for that. It also creates anxiety and stress. You get woke up, you jump. You just don't go, open up your eyes slowly and then look around. Usually you jump, and those sounds are designed to do. Some of this phenomenon itself can be manipulated to be very frightening and disturbing. When we are in bed, we're very vulnerable to this type of activity and any little things that happen, because we're unconscious. It's the worst place would be like in a bathroom in a house all by yourself, and you think intruders break. So with this strategy is can bring fear at night, and you'll find that anxiety just like quadruples or higher at night, and you won't get your sleep. It'll mess with your health. It'll mess with your mental health. It'll, people say feed on fear, but they like the fear and they're attracted to it, so they promote it. They call it poltergeist, but these aren't official words. Poltergeist used to just mean noisy ghosts, and then when the parapsychologists got a hold of it, they referred to that phenomenon when a little girl, typically at 12, going through puberty, there's activity going on around here that's physical. Things moving, and such as that they blame that case on the Enfield poltergeist case. They call it the Enfield poltergeist. We'll just say, get stirred up when emotions are high. Now, puberty girl, for example, she's coming of age. She might have all these emotions, depression, anxiety. Who knows what the cycle is? It's all the way into teenage years and so forth. And that particular age are coming of age. And that's an attraction to the demon, to party. If they're there, they get stirred up. And this happens, too, with the houses with adults. You got 2 adults there, and then I'm talking to them, then I said, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, when I hear that there's poltergeist-like activity, I said, what has changed lately that might have been brought back? And they don't name it right away, but eventually they'll say, when I ask them again, yes, well, John has lost his job, and he can't find work, and bills are getting tight. There you go. That's enough. That's enough, and it's happened. Cabinet doors start to slam and stuff just like the old days. Not as severe yet, so I have to give them the instructions again, how to get it out of there again. To some sense, it's not that they never left. It's just that somehow, once you've been through these experiences on such a degree, that they'll never be entirely gone and not able to access you again. I don't know why it works that way, but we are given the tools by the priest and people that work in this field to keep it away, and it's going to be for the rest of their life, that they should say breaking curses prayers every once in a while by default when they start to see hardships, even if it doesn't exist, just to be on the safe side. And the same thing with the prayer against oppression and so forth, saying hedge prayer protection, so you don't have to watch it grow. Most people don't do that. They back away from this stuff over time. Even if they don't back away from the faith, they back away from these things that'll keep it from coming back. You don't want it to build up so they start breaking stuff and causing hardships by damaging things that cost you money and bills, or affecting your health. That's going to cost you to go through all these doctors and until they diagnose it. And they usually aren't going to be able to diagnose it on the first one. They try to throw a little mystery in there to create more hardships. Okay, so we know in this sense that they can manipulate these things physically, but audibly that could be an indication, because the old thing used to be noisy ghosts. It didn't necessarily mean knuckles on the wall. It just meant there's phantom noises, poltergeist noises or something along that term. And some of the strategies they can do can be very frightening. The person in the bed hears a noise. Well, the noise could start at one of the 4 corners up there. Different noises each time. All of them don't belong. A crash. They get up and they look for a crash to see what shelf collapsed. They don't see it. They don't see it the next day either, if it was just a one-time thing. Sometimes in the same night, not as often though, sometimes they'll move it across a few nights. This sound will change and move. It'll go from the far corner to a little farther over to the right along the wall. It'll be another sound. It doesn't belong at all. Like I said, the sounds of something breaking, and they'll get up and look, and a lot of times they don't realize what's going on. It'll keep moving over, and where it gets creepy to the person is eventually it moves over the sounds. It travels across the wall like it's making a U, and it's heading over to you, or out the door, either way, because the door could be there in that case. And then by the time it gets to you, that last one was just a little too close. It was like bedside. And then the next time it's right in front of their face, and it's like a scream or an explosion, like a person screaming. Someone doesn't sound like a human even, and it just to wake them up. And then they jump on that one too. It can get very aggressive with something as simple as sound. They're masters of this stuff. The way they can manipulate and get your anxiety on the highest, and it's their art in that. And this is why you shouldn't treat it lightly, because it makes you think about the way progressive stages of possession happens, or oppression. There's a lot of times a sign that something is upon you, even with a curse, and it gets aggressive like that. And in stages, that's almost like a more of a graphic way, that some sound is moving over several nights, How would you come up with that with your imagination even? But those were all demonic cases, by the way. So it's not like one of those, oh, it's demonic just because that happened. That's what we don't want to spend time on anything in catering to someone's own delusion, or they watch too much movies, and it's almost like some of them want it to happen so they can write a book or a story or telling it on a stool with those paranormal shows. So this is something that's legitimate, and it's another way they can manipulate sound, not just voices and that sort of thing. It could be a voice too. In some stages, when they're talking about the phantom noises again and voices, is that I've heard this one often. I personally didn't hear this one, but with the cases, they'll hear this whispering voice, and it'll say their name like Sarah, and they'll say it slow like Sarah, in the left ear. Rare occasion, we run into people who had a little too much information. You still got to do all the things that are required in an investigation, and then usually you go back and you go and check their psychological status. They live alone, they're unemployed, they're on disability, they don't have any friends. You'll find these other things there with it that totally offset the other experiences. Of course, the demon likes to have you isolated, so that also makes you more of a target. How much should I more can I say on this? I think this is about the part where we say goodbye, good night, good day, whatever it be for the art of the deals. This is Brother Kenneth signing off, and I'll see you soon, or rather you'll see me.